Shalom, welcome to Blackboard Hebrew. I'm Tim McNinch and I'm so excited to share this video with you. It was a lot of fun to make. Hebrew verbs can be really confusing for beginners, and the concept of binyanim is one of those hurdles that lots of learners encounter. So let's jump right in. Bo natchil. Here's a good Hebrew verb, tizkeruni. Like most verbs, its core meaning is embedded in its three-letter root, in this case, zayin kaf resh. This root, or in Hebrew, shoresh, carries the basic meaning of remember in all of its various expressions. Those specific expressions, like our verb tizkeruni here, are known as inflected forms of the root, or in Hebrew, the hataya. Those extra letters nuance the meaning of the shoresh, with things like tense and gender and who's doing the action and to whom. For tizkeruni, we can parse the hataya to learn that this is a kal imperfect second masculine plural verb with a first common objective suffix. Now that's a lot of technical mumbo-jumbo, but the output of it all is that in this form, the root remember is inflected to mean you all will remember me. Now among all that data, the part I want to focus on for this video is just this first element, identifying the verbs binyan. Especially for English speakers, this is the part of Hebrew verb formation that's the most unfamiliar, and so it can be a bit confusing at first. So there's a couple of metaphors that can help us make better sense of it. The first makes use of the plant imagery in the word shoresh. In forming verbs, you can think of the shoresh like the actual root of a plant. And the binyan is like the stem or trunk of the plant with the various elements of the hataya, gender, number, person, etc., as the blossoming foliage. This metaphor is used a lot, and in English, you'll often hear the binyan referred to as the stem of the verb. But I want to really dig into a different metaphor, one that I think helps us get an even better sense of what binyanim actually do for the verb. It's an architectural metaphor, based on the fact that the word binyan means construction or building in Hebrew. The word binyan was chosen by grammarians because it simply describes the various ways that verb meanings can build on the root. But I want to take that simple idea of building and use it as a metaphor. Instead of thinking of a verb's shoresh as a plant, let's bring it to life as a character. Say hi, shoresh. Shalom. Now, let's imagine that our shoresh lives in a city. In Shoresh's city, there are all kinds of different buildings, binyanim. And just like we do in our cities, Shoresh enters different binyanim for different purposes and has different behaviors in each one. So I want to introduce you to the most common of these binyanim, starting with Paal. The most basic of the binyanim is called Paal. The names of the various binyanim are all related to the shoresh of the word poal, the Hebrew word for verb, spelled with the letters Pe, Ayin, Lamed. The vowel pattern for each binyan varies to represent how verbs in each binyan are pronounced in the third masculine singular perfect form. So in Paal, that vowel pattern is a, Paal. Like Shoresh's home sweet home here, the binyan Paal is simple, unadorned. In fact, it often goes by the nickname Kal, meaning simple or lightweight. This binyan usually gives the simplest sense of a root's meaning. For example, in the Paal form, the root kaf tav bet is katav, he wrote, and the Paal form of he lamed kaf is halach, he walked. Simple. But roots don't spend all their time at home. After breakfast and some delightful morning reading, Shoresh heads out for the day. Leaving the binyan Paal behind, Shoresh heads for the gym for a morning workout. In the Piel gym, shoresh does a high-intensity workout with lots of reps. That's because verbs in Piel form are more intense than their Paal counterparts, or their repeated actions. The vowel pattern in Piel is a hirik after the first consonant, and a dagesh chazak in the middle root consonant. This is where it's a bit unfortunate that the Hebrew names of the binyanim use the shoresh pe ayin lamed, because as a guttural letter, ayin can't be doubled with a dagesh. But I usually write it with one anyway, don't tell anyone, because that doubled middle radical is the real telltale sign of the Piel binyan. So here's a couple examples. Shavar in Paal means he broke, but in Piel, shibar, hear that double bet? Shibar means he shattered. It's intensified. Shalach in Paal is he sent, but shilach is he sent away. Safar in Paal is he counted, but in Piel, sipar is he recounted or told or narrated. It's a repetition of the action. So that's the Piel binyan. After hitting the showers, shoresh drives into work at the next binyan, the Hifil factory. Shoresh's job here is to make things happen. If Paal is the simple form and Piel is intensified, Hifil is the causative binyan. The recognizable form of Hifil in the perfect third masculine singular is a prefixed he with a hirik, and the hirik malay between the second and third root letters. Here are a couple examples of how a shoresh causes things to happen inside the Hifil factory. Lavash in the kal is simply he wore something. But in Hifil it becomes hilbish, he caused to wear, or in other words, he dressed. Malach in the kal binyan is he ruled. But in hif'il, it's himlik. He caused to rule, or he crowned someone. That's the causative function of the hifil binyan. Well, it's been an active day for shoresh, and they could use some me time, some self-care. So shoresh is winding down at the local spa, the Hitpael binyan. A cucumber mask and a mud bath is just what shoresh needs. The Paal, Piel, and Hifil Binyanim are all active forms. The Hitpael, on the other hand, is reflexive. That is, the subject both does and receives the action of the verb. I'll show you how that works in just a sec. The easy-to-spot signal of the Hitpael in the perfect third masculine singular is the prefixed he tav syllable hit. It also has that same doubling of the second root letter that we saw in the Piel. So here's how this works. In the Hitpael, you generally do things to or for yourself. In the Piel, Hillel means he praised. But in Hitpael, that action comes back to the subject, and you get hithalel. He praised himself, that is, he boasted. Get it? Here's another one. In hif'il, hechazik means he caused to be strong, or he strengthened. But in hitpa'el, hitchazak is he strengthened himself. Okay, now this one's a bit different. Remember how in the kal, halach was he walked? Well, in the hitpa'el, hithalech would be he walked himself. But it usually has the sense of walking back and forth. That is, he walked around or he paced. Sometimes hitpa'el verbs can have that kind of back and forth quality. Now there are other buildings in this city, a handful of other binyanim that we haven't yet explored. But that's probably enough of an introduction to give you a sense of how the different binyanim nuance the basic meaning of a verb's shoresh. We've looked at Paal, Piel, and Hif'il, the active binyanim, which express the simple, intensive, and causative expressions of a shoresh. We've also looked at the reflexive Hitpael binyan, which is grammatically speaking also an intensive form. Note that doubled middle root letter. Now each category also has a related passive binyan, in which the action of the verb is done to the subject. In English, we use the to be verb to express passive forms. The note was written, the glass was smashed, or the queen was crowned. In Hebrew, that passive sense is embedded in the form of the verb itself in 3 passive binyanim called nif'al, Paal, and hif'il. So these are the 7 most common binyanim, though there are a few others that pop up from time to time. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the binyanim. Check out other tutorials on my channel, and please subscribe and leave feedback. But remember, if you want to get the most out of your Hebrew learning, אהבו את העברית שלכם. Love your Hebrew.